One day, a woman on her way from Strasbourg to Potsdam for a weekend meeting of the Animal Rescue Society came upon a terrier hunting a mouse by the roadside. She rescued the dog by first catching it, and then she drove it to her meeting so her friends would know. She had always been told to first look around for any owners, but she suddenly forgot that part. When the woman arrived at the Animal Rescue Society's workshop, she held up her rescued pup for all to inspect. "Look, look lower. Those reckless people," she said. Actually, there was one man who wanted to say that somebody should go back and find the owners, but he worked in advertising and had a short attention span. In the end, another lady volunteered to find a new owner for the rescued dog, and everyone was proud of her. He was brought to us by a friend one April morning in 1992. So if you've just recognized your dog, I want you to know that he's having a good life, and that we're sorry that you can't have him back now because he's a little too old to be returned. My wife and I call him Spinnaker. Several times a day, we walk through the nearby woods and fields. Separated from spoken words, natural instincts quickly overcome us. Even as we leave the cover of the woods and step out into a clearing, I continue to experience the nomadic peace of mind, which stems from a sense of both being hidden and moving forward at the same time. Molly! Molly! The Molly Molly woman. One would be led to believe that her dog flies in circles over her head and refuses to land. But look down there. There's Molly. The Molly Molly woman has no idea where or what Molly is up to. The dog, of course, knows all along exactly where her owner is. After all, she is continuously broadcasting, "Don't worry, here I am. Don't worry, here I am." A new state of mind overcomes me, a sense of lucidity when linked to nature. Our dogs trot and sniff about in only what appears to be aimless chaos. In actuality, they are keenly aware of their surroundings and adjust their behavior towards each other through a wide variety of signals. In contrast, we people appear to be orderly through our unique ability to communicate in a common spoken language.
It drives me crazy to find reams and reams of paper all over my desk. Whenever I leave my office and come back after a weekend, it's always in the same condition. We hire this cleaning service who never gets it right.
Spinnaker's eyes because they remind me of my mom.
If I only had more money to buy these semiconductor stocks, because they're really terrific right now, and semiconductors is the wave of the future. Everything has semiconductors.
Not going as fast as I wanted. After the electrician, then came the carpenter, then he brought all this lumber in there. He was going to cut the stuff up. And then after all that, the telephone man came in, wanted to know where to put the phone. But the plumber guy was still there, so I really wasn't sure what to do with the phone.
I used to believe that this stance, what Spinnaker is doing right here, was just a dog's way of saying, "Let's play." But, Molly, As Spinnaker grew out of his playful years, I recognized that the purpose of his signal is to make me now follow him. He's waiting for me to say, "Which way do you want to go?" So I'll say it. "Which way, Spinnaker?" And he leads me onto the path which will take us down to the stream. What's interesting about this is that we are both practicing anthropomorphism because my dog uses the same signals with me as he would use with any other dog. It seems to me that we all go through life naively imagining that everyone's mind works the same way as ours. In this manner, everyone is creating relationships with each other which are based purely on imagination. When I was a young man, I was forced by political circumstances to live for 20 years in communist Czechoslovakia. I rebelled in many self-destructive ways, and when I went to bed I was often too angry and too depressed to undress or even take off my shoes. I kept a dog, which complicated my life, of course, but just to make things a little harder, I named him Roosevelt. There was no lock or even a latch to the attic room where I painted strange paintings and where I slept, and all these things were against the law, so it meant that I could start each day breaking lots of rules. Doors are to be locked. Only peasants have dogs to bark at strangers. Strangeness is suspicious. Paintings must be realistic. Why that dog and why that beard at such a young age? That's what the neighbors wanted to know. Sameness and class hatred was the law of the proletariat. A simple rule to follow since there was little to sell in meager stores. With my dog and my beard, I made myself an easy target to be hated by the masses. I sometimes limped just to stand out some more. Dogs were never tolerated in restaurants. I stared back at the busy workers while fantasizing about getting a second dog. Perhaps a bigger one.
No prosím vás, co si to dovolujete? Vemte si toho psa.
Jak to mám vědět? Kde je to napsané?
Každej vůl snad přeci vy. Vemte si psa, seberte ho, já tady dělám jako každý jiný.
While I spewed venom and insults back at the waiter, Roosevelt cowered.
Co sem lezete se před vole?
Ježišmarja, proletáři světa se spojili! But whenever someone walked through the door, Roosevelt fixed his sight beyond the entrance. He had mastered an uncanny ability to precisely determine when all the players were best lined up before he made his move. Then, all of a sudden, he would make a dash for it. Roosevelt, it seemed, understood that my loud belligerence only brought too much attention to the two of us. He knew how to stay out of the spotlight and sneak into forbidden places without being noticed by anyone. He taught me a valuable lesson back then. When it comes to authority, get sneaky and do everything under the table. It never failed him till the day he died. To live under totalitarian rule was to live without a past and without a future. When the past has been robbed from you, and the future is a lie, you can't just begin to live in the present. You merely exist. One day, I was told about a woman who was eager to get rid of a young and beautiful dog because she couldn't handle him anymore. It turned out that she kept him cooped up all day long in her bathroom. As I watched the dog turn her place into something that looked more like my own place, I knew that this dog was for me. Once on the street, I released him and he disappeared around the corner. I wasn't worried about him getting lost, but I was surprised to soon discover that he always kept to the sidewalk and I never had to put him on a leash again. He fell in step with me, trotting along and taking his freedom like a gentleman. At first I called him Truman, and then shortened it to Ike. I walked Ike across the entire city, and it was dark by the time we got home. This long hike on our very first day created a bond stronger than any amount of treats would have ever accomplished. For the next 6 years, the two of us never separated for a single minute. Ike had boundless energy and strength. He developed a strange mania for the long poster walls which lined so many European streets. He would spot a tiny unglued corner of paper, and this would send him into a violent frenzy. Stunned pedestrians quickly gathered, titillated by the madness and political implications of such a bizarre sight. Whenever I would slip away, Ike never followed me directly, but after some delay he would catch up with me, and only when there was no one else around. Such incidents created between us an intimacy that only occasionally transpires between separate species. Perhaps it was love, because I felt a need to have him by my side no matter where I went. For that purpose, I falsified a badge which I knew never really existed in Czechoslovakia. I made the badge to say that I was a certified trainer of seeing eye dogs and was hereby granted the right to bring my dog into any public establishment where dogs were otherwise not permitted. It worked like magic. I could even bring Ike into the movies with me. Commercial dog food was non-existent, and there were times when meat was available only in exclusive restaurants favored by the privileged ruling class. But thanks to my Seeing Eyes trainer badge, I had access to some of the choicest leftovers to be found in Prague. Having to take care of a dog made me hold on to the last trace of decency and self-worth left in me. Ike had been in my care for about 6 years when I came upon a chance to slip out of the country. It involved the forging of a couple of documents to trick the Ministry of Internal Affairs into granting me an exit visa. I lived in fear while I waited, but I had to go about without creating a stir. The citizenry of Prague was soaked with vigilant police informers who liked to eavesdrop on even the tritest chats among friends who might be just reading their beatnik poems to one another. It certainly would have caused a flag to pop up if all of a sudden I would have sold or even just given away my notoriously inseparable Ike. But in my studio, I kept a hidden stash of tranquilizers and a good amount of sodium pentothal left behind by a former girlfriend. Suicide had always been on our minds, and I wasn't armored with a shield of sanity in those days either. It is well known that dogs seldom outlive their masters. Thus it caused no ado when one fall day in 1967, people were told that Ike had just died. It was his turn for his last train ride. After arriving in the United States, Johnson was the first dog I had as a free man. Johnson's food came with a rebate coupon.
What a good boy, Johnny. Perfect mark. You are such a good little boy. Sidewalk, Johnny. Good boy. Leash. There he comes. What a good little guy. Good morning.
Nice trick. Good morning.
All clear.
Hey kids, put your bikes away. I'm coming back with a client. Get in the car, Johnny. One morning, I was sitting in the parking lot of our train station, waiting for the arrival of a new client who I had never met before. Johnny was occupying the passenger seat next to me. He was rolled over, looking like roadkill and passing gas. I had to keep all the car windows down. Over the phone, I had described my car to my client, whereas he had failed to tell me what he himself looked like. But I knew it must be him when I spotted the commanding suit and mustache. As a matter of fact, he could have passed for Hitler's bigger brother. Get in the back! What came next was the last thing I would have expected from this burly man.
Oh, all right, sure.
No, please, I was just telling... But I didn't want to say that I was just yelling at my dog and you obeyed. So I began to mutter something about, please sit here, and he said, pleased to meet you too. So I said, here, sit over here, and I reached over to open the door. Johnson, get back in the car.
First I'll zoom in a little. And I get the mic, okay? My current dog sleeping here at my feet. I won't use his name because I don't want to disturb him. Registers every nuance of my behavior, especially when it has something to do with his own desires or fears. For instance, he can always tell whenever the thought of, taking a break enters my mind. but I really have no predictable routine, so it's not that it's some inner clock that would alert him. Now, I can talk about this, but since I have no true intention in taking a break at the moment, he sleeps on. Just now, I had a real thought of getting up and taking a break. It just flashed across my mind. And look at this. It never fails. And I haven't even put down my pencil or anything to create a familiar sound. Yet he stretches. Look, he's yawning, and here he comes. Spinnaker. What infinitely small change would you have noticed in my behavior, huh? And which one of his senses is always linked to which one of mine? There lies a mystery. I think that we are all born with a predisposition to become connected with nature. In that case, we humans should have the same ability as animals do to communicate with each other through our senses alone. It's just that somewhere along the line we lost the practice.
Hey, Paul, I figured something out. You know why your dog is crippled? It's about something we call transference. Transference is when you put something onto somebody or something else that doesn't really exist. And in your case, I think it's about you and your father.
Catherine is a pop therapist and will not let anyone forget it. What she is referring to happened last year. I was walking Spinnaker along a busy road. My mind wandered and I wasn't paying close attention to him. Spinnaker had turned into an older and wiser dog, so I began to worry less about his every move, which was a terrible mistake. Spinnaker? Spinnaker? Spinnaker! And there he was, on the other side of the street. He had never done this before. Stop! 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 Hold it! Wait! But Spinnaker didn't understand that command. 5 days and 2 operations later, a heavily sedated Spinnaker was released back into our care. Sandra lowered the dazed and very sick dog onto our garden's path. Just then, a crippled bird hopped into his vision. Spinnaker gently picked the bird up and then crushed him to death.
So that's why you let your dog get hit by a car. You thought when you allow your dog to run around without a leash, you are your father saying, oh, you're a big boy now and you can take care of yourself. And that's how it happened, and that's transference.
I felt a need to get away from the dog walk, so the next day Sandra and I went sailing instead. For millennia, human beings have survived by following their ancient instinct to both flee and hide. This must be why people take so well to the water. Down below, burrowed in the shelter of a low overhead, a person can be both in motion and remain still, return familiar objects to their proper places, and watch how their positions never stay the same. Around noon, the Chesapeake Bay often becomes very still. Our minds drift with the ebbing tide. A gull lands in the water not far from our boat and studies us with a watchful eye. All remain still, yet we travel together. And suddenly I know, with absolute clarity, that to be in awe of nature and let go of all other thoughts is to become connected with God.